Now, those were President Park's key words. Now let's take a look at some numbers. Over the last 3 years, there have been key events that have shaped President Park's term, and that's been reflected in her approval ratings. Our Kwon Jang-ho takes us through those figures and the people's voices behind them.
대통령으로서의 직책을 성실히 수행할 것을 국민 앞에 엄숙히 선서합니다.
It's been 3 years since President Park Geun-hye came into office. She has navigated her way through diplomatic highs and tragic lows. And so far, the Korean public is divided on their assessments of her presidency.
I was worried that as a female president, she would be too soft-hearted and too timid, but she has been tough beyond expectations.
She hasn't been able to control the National Assembly well enough, but she has been a firm leader for the country. It's important to lead in politics and not be led, and on that front, I think she's done quite well.
I doubt she feels she has achieved what she promised to do. I don't think she has done anything worth judging.
Over the past 3 years, there have been no advancements in the economy or society. In fact, household debt has increased. She hasn't done anything positive.
Let's take a look at President Park's approval ratings over the last 3 years. The first numbers came out in March 2013, a month after she took office, and she starts off with a positive rating of 44%. After that, her ratings rise quickly, and in September, they go up to 67% after she attended the G20 summit in Russia. Unfortunately, though, this will be the highest approval rating she ever receives. From there, her numbers wobble around in the 50s until 2014. And then it goes up to 61% in March after a speech she gave in Dresden where she laid out a plan for Korean reunification, calling it a jackpot for the peninsula. But then tragedy hit the nation with the sinking of the Sewol ferry, which left almost 300 people dead, most of them high school students. The Park administration was blamed for its slow response, and her reputation never really recovers from this point. Her numbers keep dropping going into 2015, hitting a low of 29% after a controversial new tax scheme that ended up costing some middle-class taxpayers. Her numbers recover slightly, but then the MERS outbreak hits and her ratings go back down to 29%. The disease kills 36, and the government is again blamed for its slow response. Her ratings languish until August when we see the spike. That's when the Park administration negotiated a landmark agreement with North Korea to ease tensions after landmines planted by the North injured 2 South Korean soldiers. The deal also restarted reunions for war-separated families. But that high didn't last long, and the numbers peter out until we come to this year. Although President Park has suffered some ups and downs over the last 3 years, she's ended up pretty much where she started, just 1% lower than that first reading.
We can say that she's managed to avoid fatal blows to her presidency, but it can also be said she hasn't done much to win over public opinion either. After North Korea's 4th nuclear test, there are many people who approve of her strong stance, but as a result, many are also worried about deteriorating relations with China and with North Korea. That mix of good and bad ratings is being reflected in the numbers.
If you look at the approval rating of previous presidents, you can see a significant downward trend during the 5-year term. President Park's numbers are within this band, but you can see that while she started off with the lowest ratings, her numbers are now the 2nd highest. She also has the most consistent ratings, but whether she'll be able to buck the downward trend for the rest of her term remains to be seen.
So what do people want and expect from the remaining 2 years?
Because she was a woman president, I was expecting a warm, motherly figure, but instead we got a cold stepmother. I hope that changes and we get an understanding and kind-hearted person.
I hope things are done that our lives easier. I just wish for people's lives to be better.
I hope there's more help for the elderly who live by themselves and people in need. I hope she finds more ways to communicate with the people through debates and forums. I also want to see her working more in collaboration with the opposition party.
3 years down, 2 to go. President Park will now need to consider what kind of impression and legacy she wants to leave behind at the end of her term. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.